Double Game Week 25 is finally here, and in today's video I'm going to give you the ultimate preview so you're all prepped, prepared and ready to beat your mates in your mini league. Before we dive into today's preview, if you do like any of the content that you see on the channel, please be sure to like, comment and subscribe, as we are trying to hit 5,000 subscribers by the end of the season. It's a big goal, but I do believe we can do it with your support. Obviously, if you've been living under a rock or potentially in a coma, you won't have seen Double Game Week 25 been announced, but it is here. It's the first big mega Double Game Week we are getting this season, and there are some very, very tasty fixtures indeed. I'm not going to spend too long on this, but obviously I just want to make people aware that potentially are, a little bit maybe unsure what's going to happen this game week. Well, there's two games for these four teams right here. Liverpool and Manchester City are the teams that I think you definitely should be loading up on, but Brentford and Luton do have their positives as well. Obviously, both of these teams play in blank game week 29, I think. Luton might need some other results to go their way, but on the other hand, Luton do double in game week 28. Brentford do play in 29 as well, so these teams have the most kind of fixtures over the next 5 to 6 game weeks as well. So, even though the doubles aren't great, they're definitely still worth investing in. But let's take a look at what chip strategy you might want to be playing this week, because this is basically the first week I think that a lot of chips are going to get used. This is probably the first week that a lot of people are going to be playing their first chip of the season. And in my personal opinion, there's 3 potential chips you could be playing this week. The triple captain one, obviously a double game week player is going to be getting that triple captain chip for you. We will come on to talk about that in a little while, talking about the best options to use that triple captain chip on. I think this is a fantastic game week for the Liverpool players, for the Manchester City players as well. Cities as well, both home fixtures. They're cracking in form. The right players are back in their team as well, so definitely some high upside players there. Some really strong fixtures as well to go in that double game week. These are usually the weeks where you do use that triple captain chip. Obviously, maybe you want to save it for further down the line, and that potentially might lead you on to chip strategy number 2, which is the free hit chip. Maybe if your team hasn't got enough doublers in it, or maybe you don't have a clear way to get to Erling Haaland, this could be a route to him. This could be a route to get as many doublers in as possible. It is activating that free hit chip. There is a video on the channel already, the ultimate free hit guide, so if you want to go and check that out as well, build the best team for you this game week, that is already on the channel, so go and check that one out. Like I said, I think this strategy is for people that potentially haven't planned for game week 25. Maybe they've only got 1 or 2 doublers. They want to get some more in. Maybe they haven't got the likes of Darwin, KDB. Or, on the other hand, like I said, they can't get to Erling Haaland unless it requires a major bit of surgery. I think anything over maybe a -8 or a -12 to get Haaland in your team, probably worth using the free hit chip rather than the triple captain chip. And, there's some very good, solid single game week players as well. Newcastle have a really good fixture. Manchester United have a really good fixture as well. So definitely some upside to potentially using the free hit chip this week if you don't want to go for the triple captain one, or potentially you have already used it. Then the third and final option, it is the bench boost. Like I said, there's obviously the double game week players. Then there's the solitary game week players as well. There's some very, very tasty fixtures. Arsenal have a good fixture as well in there. Manchester United have a really good fixture. So plenty of strong fixtures coming up for, just the single game week teams as well as the doubles. So maybe if you've wildcarded a few weeks ago, maybe you've got your team set, maybe it's in a good position to potentially, have a very, very solid bench boost, or maybe you've just got extremely lucky, you've got the doublers in, you've got a very strong bench as well. Might be worth potentially considering using that bench boost chip. But for me personally, I think I've ordered them in the correct order here. Number 1 is going to be play the triple captain chip, probably on Erling Haaland, but we will come on to discuss the other options. Then number 2, if you haven't got Haaland or can't get to him very easily, or maybe you don't have enough double game week players, then the free hit chip one. And then the third and final one is the bench boost. But I feel this chip might be better utilized further down the line. In the last section, I did briefly touch on best captaincy options. Now, for me, the 5 players that we have in this list are the best 5 for using that captaincy or potentially even the triple captaincy on. All of these players do have the double game week. Obviously, 2 Liverpool, 3 Manchester City. We're going to start off with Diogo Jota. He is Liverpool's main man at the moment. It does look like Mohamed Salah is not going to be fit and available, or at least for the first game anyway, for double game week 25. Obviously, if there are are any updates to his injury, that might change things, might change a lot of people's position on Diogo Jota as well. But he is Liverpool's main man. 4 goals, 3 assists for him. Good underlying data, good points scored as well. And I do think he probably is the second best option for that triple captaincy usage of the chip, to be honest, because the thing with City is, and I said this in my transfer targets video, and I also said this in the free hit video, is City do have Champions League games sandwiched in and around this double game week. They're going to play Copenhagen. There's obviously, you know, a full fit squad for Pep Guardiola to pick from as well. The likes of Haaland, KDB, Foden, Grealish, Doku. He's got a plethora of talent to pick from, so there is going to be some rotation. Obviously, Haaland and KDB coming back from a long-term injury as well. So are they going to see out 90 minutes in both, or maybe even be rested for one of the double game week games? That is always a potential option. Jota on the other hand, I feel if Salah isn't fit and available, he will play both games. He will play a large majority of both games. And the form that he's in, he definitely could be that kind of second option to potentially go with the double captain chip on. You know, it's something, you know, the triple captain chip, on. It definitely is a good option to potentially go for. But I do still prefer Erling Haaland. I just wanted to kind of get that point out there that there is the slight risk that Haaland, KDB and Foden might see some rotation, obviously coming back from their injury, and the fact that Champions League games are sandwiched in and around them. Moving on to the next potential option, maybe you just fancy a little bit of fun with your triple captaincy chip. It could be Darwin Núñez. I've said this in previous videos. I do believe he has one of the highest upsides in the game at the moment. Look at the expected data that he's putting up. 6.22 is absolutely ridiculous. One of these weeks, he is going to pop. Maybe it's going to be this double game week. It could be already up to 7.6 million as well. He could be that little bit of a fun option. Maybe you just fancy trying something a little bit different. Maybe just, you know, throwing a little bit of a curveball out there. Maybe you can't get to Haaland and you're just thinking, I want to use the triple captain chip. Darwin Núñez, I think, would be the fun kind of meme option. If it works out, great, because the data that he's putting up is absolutely stupendous, but he just needs to convert some of his chances. And if he does, he is going to get some mega hauls. Moving on to our next option, and it is obviously going to be Erling Haaland. For me, he is the clear and obvious favourite for this game week for using that triple captain chip on. Since his return, 2 goals, 1 assist from the side. He is just prolific, isn't he? He's very much inevitable. He is going to score goals. But like I said, there is that slight doubt in my mind that he might see maybe some reduced minutes with the Champions League games coming up. Obviously, they're sandwiched in between the double game week. So we might see a little bit of kind of rotation from Pep Guardiola. Maybe he doesn't see out both games. Maybe we're not going to get the full use of that triple captaincy chip. But I think, to be honest, I still think I'm going to play it. I think even if Haaland plays 60 in both, he's still going to come away with a couple goals, maybe some assists as well. It only took him 2 shots yesterday to get himself a brace. He is super clinical with this Manchester City side as well, starting to purr into gear, starting to get to that point as they always do at this time of the season, where they just go on these long unbeaten runs, very difficult to beat as well. I imagine Erling Haaland is, like most people's top captaincy choice for this week, and most people's top triple captaincy choice as well. Moving on to the final 2 City assets is going to be KDB. We're going to talk about first. I think with him being benched, it probably means maybe he's going to play Champions League on Tuesday night. We'll have to wait and see on that one. Or it might be that he's just, you know, maybe feeling the effects of kind of coming back from a long-term injury. But since coming back from the long-term injury, 4 goals, 1 assist. I just think he is a slight minutes rotation risk. So for me personally, I would not be giving him the triple captaincy chip or the captaincy chip this week. I think Jota is a better option than going for KDB. Then the final one is Pep's golden boy at the moment. It is Phil Foden. 3 goals, 3 assists for him. Obviously, a few weeks ago, scored a hat-trick against Brentford. So maybe he can do that again. Obviously, playing them in double game week 25, it's always a possibility. Chelsea as well at the moment, a little bit rocky, a little bit unstable, so you definitely feel like Manchester City could get the upper hand in that fixture as well. Interestingly, Foden, as we will come on to talk about, is one of the highest predicted points for this game week, so maybe he's going under a lot of people's radars. Maybe we're not like giving him enough credit. The performances that he's putting in, the eye test that he's passing for me as well, massively positive indicators. The only thing, like I said, very much with all the City players, is there is going to be some rotation, and I just think outside of Haaland, I probably wouldn't look at any of the other City assets for that triple captaincy chip. I briefly touched on predicted points for double game week 25. This is the full list. I think it does impact potentially maybe where some of your triple captaincy chips are going, or maybe some of your transfer recruitments. Starting off with captaincy, as you can see, Erling Haaland is clear by a long way. 15.3 predicted points for him in double game week 25. Interestingly, Foden above both Diogo Jota and Luis Diaz as well, so maybe offering himself up as that vice captain for us this week. As you can see, KDB's not on here, so I think Draft Hound have a very similar kind of prediction with me. They do think that he's probably a little bit of a minutes risk. Obviously, we saw him benched at the weekend against Everton as well. Champions League football, that long-term injury coming back from that, I agree with them. I think he's probably not worth giving the captaincy armband to this week. Interestingly, if you're looking at transfers as well, maybe the double game week, maybe the predicted points, are going to influence you there. Foden, very, very high up. Diogo Jota. Interestingly, Luis Diaz at 12.2, above Julian Alvarez, above Darwin Núñez as well. So very interesting on that front that Luis Diaz is that high. For me personally, I haven't been overly impressed with his performance, nor the data that he's putting up for the price tag. I think I would rather go and get Diogo Jota or Phil Foden if I could afford either of those options. I just think Luis Diaz is a little bit flat. Obviously, his minutes are quite secure on that left-hand side, but for me personally, I don't see a mega haul coming out of him. Whereas with Diogo Jota or Phil Foden, there is always that potential that those two could go and get an absolute mega haul. Interestingly, Nathan Ake quite high up on this list as well, so if you are looking maybe for a Manchester City defender, I think he probably would be the top pick that I would go for. Played 90 minutes for 7 or 8 consecutive games now as well. Obviously picked up the assist against Everton as well. 5 million, a little bit steep, but you know, it is a double game week, so it's always nice to get a quality defender in there. Very similar with what I've said previously about all the other City assets. There is a high risk of rotation with these guys, mainly down to the fact that the Champions League games are sandwiched either side of the double game week. Some other interesting players on here. Julian Alvarez, maybe if you've got him, might be worth holding him. For me personally, I probably would prefer having Foden or KDB. Then there's Trent Alexander-Arnold. We're going to come on to talk about him a little bit later. And interestingly, Mo Salah on there. Obviously, I think Draft Town are probably predicting that he might be back for just one of the game weeks. Maybe that Luton game. Maybe he comes off the bench. Maybe something like that. Like I said, though, with Mohamed Salah, for me personally, I need to see enough from him, maybe in training. Maybe Jurgen Klopp gives us some very positive encouragement, like he's going to be back, he's going to be fit for that first game against Brentford. But for me personally, I can't quite see it happening, so I don't think he's worth investing in double game week 25. Trent Alexander-Arnold obviously came off at halftime in game week 24, and obviously it is a huge blow for the double game week. I think a lot of people would have been clambering towards him. I'm currently an owner of Trent Alexander-Arnold as well. I was holding him out for the double game week, hoping we could get something. I thought he's starting to cook, got the assist yesterday, but then came off at halftime. And this is what Jurgen Klopp had to say after the game. It's the same area in the knee, nothing really bad, but he felt it again, and we have to see now, we have to assess it. So obviously it is the same recurrent injury that he had a few weeks ago. He felt a little bit of pain. They didn't want to risk him, so they took him off at halftime as a precautionary measure. Obviously we're going to have to wait for Jurgen Klopp to see what his potential update is on Trent Alexander-Arnold, whether or not he's going to be fit and available for both the games in double game week 25, because realistically that is why we want to hold him. It's been super frustrating holding on to Trent for the past few weeks. He's picked up 6 points over the past 5. It's been really, really tough as a Trent Alexander-Arnold owner. Now getting this injury, meaning that he might miss the only reason that I ever held him, to be honest. That double game week is super frustrating. But what are the options if you do own Trent? Maybe let's have a little bit of think. Let's see how we can kind of rebound from this and get ourselves back. Now, first of all, I think the first option that you could do is just hold Trent and hope for the best. Let's see what Jurgen Klopp says. Maybe he's going to recover from this. Maybe he's going to see out both games. But with it being an injury, I think they're going to be very cautious around him. Then I think as well, I think they're going to be, you know, just extra vigilant with this injury. Obviously, the game's in quite short succession of each other as well, so I don't think that he's going to play one or the other, or he might see reduced minutes, maybe coming off before he even gets a clean sheet, like bonus locked in, which would be absolutely devastating. So that's option one. I think I'm not going to go for option 1 unless, you know, we get some very positive encouragement from Trent. Option 2 is we could go for another defender, and I think this is where my head is currently at. I think I'm going to take a -4 this week. Thank you for that, like, car outside. I'm going to take a -4 this week, I think is the plan. We're going to remove Trent Alexander-Arnold. Now, I could go for another double game week defender, maybe Virgil van Dijk, but it puts me in a very same position next week when I need to obviously get rid of the blank game week player. Or there is Connor Bradley as well. He's currently taking compassionate leave with obviously his father dying, which is, you know, not the best. So best wishes to him. He might be back within contention. We'll have to again see what Jurgen Klopp says. He's been super impressive in the Premier League games that he's shown so far, and if they're not currently kind of confident in Trent's fitness, he might come in, he might play both games and do exceptionally well. So he could be a little bit of maybe a gamble, a little bit of a kind of a roll of the dice. We see where he's at, have a little bit of a gamble, have a bit of fun this double game week. He could be an option because I do feel he does have the higher upside over going for Virgil van Dijk. Very kind of just rigid, hoping for the 6 points, hoping for the clean sheet, maybe a set piece goal, where at least with Connor Bradley we potentially could have those attacking returns, which could make him into a mega haul player for this double game week. So that's one of the options. Then I think there's possibly, you know, maybe Reguilon's been kind of floated around. I already own Doherty, but I think he might be a nice shout. But in my personal opinion, I think unless we get really super positive encouragement from Jurgen Klopp, I think Trent Alexander-Arnold is a sell for this week. And rounding off today's preview video, I thought we would take a look at a free hit draft. There is a video on the YouTube channel if you want a more in-depth guide. Obviously, I've made a few changes with the Arsenal game just taking place. I've taken Trippier out. I've put Gabriel in here. But as you can see, we've packed this team with double game week players. Haaland with the armband as well. Plenty of Luton talent in there as well because, you know, why not? They've got a double game week. Doherty as well, very interesting player. Created 9 opportunities in the game against Sheffield United. If you look at his heat map as well, he's on corners. It's absolutely exceptional. So definitely a player I would be considering if I was on the free hit. Obviously, we've got all the other big hitters in here. Virgil, Diego Jota, Darwin, Haaland, KDB, Foden, all those as well. Ivan Toney in super impressive form since returning from his ban. Garnacho's in here as the cheap midfield option. Obviously, you could pop Ross Barkley in there as well. He's got the double game week. Again, very similar price point. Declan Rice, now taking some set pieces for Arsenal as well, could offer himself up as a fantastic option as well in your Game Week 25 free hit draft if you are thinking about potentially playing that chip. Let me know what chips you're playing this game week, or if you have any questions in general. I'll try and answer as many as I can in the questions. But thank you very much for watching today, ladies and gentlemen, and good luck this game week.